drag out these meetings in the Bahamas, so I'll use it as an excuse. How's the weather there? 82? 80, what's it looks like 82. Am I close? You're muted. No,
He's speechless. That's how
yeah,
nice the weather is.
got it.
All right, there I am. Yeah,
Okay.
it's in the 80s. Just had a rainstorm and it's getting sunny again.
Oh, that's tough.
Big rainbow, spectacular rainbow, which is beautiful.
Got it. Well, we'll try not to make you have too many motions here in the next 30 minutes or so. So
Yeah, let's stay out of the weeds.
well, high level, absolutely, Bob. Yeah, I got you. I understand. High level.
Okay.
Bob, while we're waiting, I'm going to send you my phone, okay?
Okay.
My number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. On that note, 5:31, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Number 2, public comment. Raquel, do we have anyone, any public up with their hand?
No, no, we do not.
Got it. Item 3, approval of prior minutes of January 21st, 2025. Anyone like to make a motion?
I would. I read them thoroughly.
What do you have a
okay?
second? Do we have a second, anyone?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Old business, hearing none. Moving on to new business, architects.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the building committee. I heard the message about brevity, so here we go. Just recapping, you should have received in your packet our most recent field report. So just some highlights. In the preceding 14 days, we received 12 new construction RFIs for a total of 316, 14 new submittals for a total of 764. We listed the meetings that we've held, still participating in the weekly OAC meetings and site visits. Primarily, the major effort has been receipt of the FF&E and technology bids, as well as pulling together the purchase orders, some of which are for the building committee this evening to review. There are a number of ATPs, about 4 ATPs. If there are any questions regarding those, we'll be happy to answer them when they come up for review. So beyond that, I'm happy to answer any other questions about what's going on in the field. The team continues to work collaboratively with Colliers and Gilbane, and we're all still friends on site. So project's going well.
Beautiful. Hearing no questions for Justin, I'll turn it over to Robert to give the CM update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Screen 2, share. All right, so we'll start outside in with this dirt mound that we're basically looking at. So Mungertown Road is right outside our fence. So we're looking to the west, and what's outside this on the other side of this pile is basically your septic fields. So one of the big site activities we started within the last 2 weeks was starting to put in this actual septic fields. We had done some of the prep work down below off the backside of the building, but now we're kind of working where the force main comes up to and where the actual fields are going. So we'll probably be working on this right all the way through the month of February, hopefully wrapping up right around the end of the month, early March. And then working with the health department, obviously, on this. So we've had a new town building department member, town committee come out, or town employee come out working with Trent from the health department. So he's been coming out about twice a week to monitor our work out here. So you can see it runs pretty far. It actually, you can see this excavator is working on it as well. So it runs along a lot of that west elevation off the building. Try to keep this short. Okay, that didn't work, but now we'll jump up to the roof. So just to give you a little snapshot of what we're doing on the roof at this point, this is the bump up high roof that's overlooking the cafeteria area and then kind of flows into the media center area. We've actually installed the louvers. These are translucent panels, which don't show in this picture, but we've started on these and are expected to hopefully wrap these up at the end of the this week actually. So we'll have the translucent panels in, and then we'll wrap up and finish off these metal panels. We had started these and actually took them down. We had some questions and some detail corrections that we worked out with the metal panel installer. So he started here. We had him take his work down, and now he'll be finishing after finishing up at this location this month. Outside of that, if I spin a little bit, you can see we have I believe this is the roof fan for the gym. And then you can see we have the skylights installed. The skylights were actually water tested as part of the envelope testing about 2 weeks ago. Those all passed. So we're pushing along. The next kind of major exterior roof activities will be the metal roofing at the canopies and then getting into the fascia. And we're actively working on all those now as weather permits. Jumping inside quickly. So there's a lot going on inside. We basically have people in all the different areas and zones of the building at this point. What we're looking at here is the cafeteria. And so we're looking at that ornamental stair. And what's nice about this is we had actually installed these 2 stairs since the last building committee and started putting in some of the structure that's required for that cafeteria guardrail. So that was a big step that allowed us to kind of push forward with releasing the actual fancy metalwork that's required at this area. And then you can kind of get a feel at just kind of the look of the room. We're actually in the process of sheetrocking all this. So this was last week. If you came out and took a tour early next week, this is actually going to be all purple and sheetrocked by the end of this week. So we're moving right along. And that kind of times and sequences out was as we keep wrapping the translucent panels and the Kingspan up at this elevation and putting these windows in, the drywall contractor will continue and follow right around. He puts the Intello wrap and then he sheetrocks. Intello wrap is the vapor barrier at the exterior wall. So he has Intello up high underneath the Kingspan, and then we'll sheetrock after inspection and close. But so they're pushing along in this area. And I'm going to jump you through into, I'm going to try to jump into the gym. Hopefully this works. Yeah, see, every time I try to move, once I get the image up, it doesn't let me move. But just where we stand in the gym, that's one of the areas we're starting to get in the finishes a little bit. So we actually sheetrocked around those skylights that I shown you that were water tested. And we started prepping for paint because we have gym equipment showing up the end of February. So that's kind of why we're pushing and kind of sequencing that area. So that will be another area that will look dramatically different by the end of the month. All right. And then just for the last little quick image, this is over in the pre-K kindergarten area. And this is where we're pushing along with finishes. So you can get a feel, you can see the ceiling grid in. We're dropping the MEP items in the ceiling. And it doesn't show here, but what we actually have started is millwork in this. So I was hoping to have an image from this walkthrough with the millwork installed. But next week, I'll make sure I get a couple images. We started putting in the cubbies, and then they're actually starting to work on casework. And then we actually started ceramic tile in the bathrooms as well. So I'll make sure we get some images for next week to show you that work as well. Kind of in the spirit of time, I'll open it up and see if anyone has any questions or anything they want to specifically maybe try to look at.
How about the front entrance, if you can, Robert? Just those.
Yep.
If it's changed much since.
Give me 1 sec. I'm going to try to reload it. And it drops me actually right at this entrance, but let me back up slightly here. Boop, boop, boop. Come back in. What? So we do have it all framed out. They're actually, and if we pivot to the right, you can see the big current wall 8 areas framed out as well. What we're doing right now is finishing this south stair curtain wall glazing, and then they're gonna continue to work this way. Go through CW8 and end up at this current wall entrance. So by the end of the month, end of February, we should have glazing in here. If I spin a little more, actually. So I jumped down a little bit, but you can see we kind of glazed all these punched windows, these storefront openings, and we were supposed to get our last school guard delivery of glass this morning today. We actually had power down on the site today because one of the things that's a big activity coming up is on Thursday, they're looking to set the Eversource transformer. So Eversource, in preparation for that transformer set, actually has been having their line crew finish up pulling the 3-phase Friday and today. So it's good news, but it actually shut down power to in the neighborhood for a couple hours for most of the day today. So we were a little we were able to keep working obviously inside, but it caused a little bit of issues for anyone who needed a lot of internet for their job like I do. So pushing right along. That's huge with the power coming. The DOAS, that last section, that's installed at this point. So we do have the DOAS. So we're marching right along right where we should be for schedule. We had 40 people working on Saturday just to kind of continue to push and hit targeted areas, pushing the sheetrock, pushing the ductwork on this lower level B. So there's a lot of activity. I'm trying to roll right into finishes and get ready for the spring.
I have a question for you, Robert.
Yep.
On the second story there, above the windows, above the panels, what's going on at the roof line there? Looks kind of funky. What is that?
So that's the TPO roof membrane. What we do for the roofing is as they put the metal roofing on the canopies, and they're actually in process of doing this now. They'll do the canopies and then follow around and actually put the metal fascia on to the edge here. So that's incomplete. There's going to be a metal edge that'll secure all that and finish it off.
Great, thank you.
How much frost you got in the ground, Robert? Looks a little.
It's funny because you can see how it's wet here. What happens is it sort of freezes overnight,
Yeah.
and then this turns into mud in the sun during the day. So we really don't have any embedded frost. It just makes it a little messy from time to time.
But you got the tracking pads, right? So you don't have nothing's getting out on the street, right?
Correct. For the most part,
Most
they've
part.
been maintaining on a daily basis and trying to maintain it, and it actually extended a little bit where that septic work's going on. So, for the most part, they've been cleaning it every day. Nothing. Occasionally you'll see a tire track potentially that says to get through the end of the day, but then they sweep that out and then, like I said, keep maintaining it. So it's a daily maintenance with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard any complaints about from neighbors, so all good. Any other questions for Robert?
Looks great.
Moving on to OPM update.
Good evening, everyone. The bulk of the work that the OPM team has been doing is representative of what the things would be voting on here, working with Justin on the FF&E, IT, playground items. We did receive a bid for the playground work that's being scope reviewed tomorrow. So the hope is that we can get that all buttoned up and have that at next week's meeting to vote on and get awarded if that all shakes out. The other two components I would highlight since we last met, we did have another state reimbursement request that was submitted. That should bring back another about $3 million just under back to the town on $11 million worth of expenditures, as well as state change order 3, which as you guys approve the change orders and they get under contract, we then have to submit them to the state so that the state can review them for eligibility. And there's a whole big process for that. So those are the big items. But like I said, most of what has been taking up the time on our end, in addition to working with Gilbane in the field and Eversource and the commissioning agent, are these furniture items and IBIT to get them ready, contracted, and in the queue, so that way we can have all the components on site. So,
Moving on
all the
to
others, keep it
5.
brief.
Good, high level, perfect. Item number 5, review potential awards of procurement items. You got
All right.
your screen?
Yes. Yes. All right, so we'll go in the order of the draft motions. I'll just do it by section. So start off with ATPs, like I think it was Justin mentioned, there are 4 of them this evening. First item, ATP 67, is for $4,700. This is some additional fire alarm monitoring modules in the brake tank and backflow enclosure. Justin, I don't know if you have any more technical input on this one. This is the one that's the most outside my wheelhouse, but we did review it, and Kohler wrote and identified the additional items needed. But
Yeah, the tamper switches are located at the valves that are unsupervised within the brake tank. So that is we're not part of the documents needed by code. So this is incorporating them into the contract.
second item, ATP 73 for $4,621. This is for additional infrastructure for room M72. This was just a simple case where we bought the Promethean board on this for the scope, but the AVIT drawings didn't have the backup on the base scope, so it's to add it back in, so that way there's something to plug the TV into. So that's this item. ATP 74 for $3,551. This is for an additional steel angle support on curtain wall 6. Essentially, looking at it in the field, each component of the building has some tolerances that they can be built to, so nothing's ever perfectly straight. Concrete walls, steel, etc. Sometimes when they aggregate, as in this case, there might be an inch difference between one end of the wall and another end of the wall. And so the intent was for the curtain wall to have 2, I think it was 2¼ inches of bearing, something like that. It ended up with only 1¼ inch after all the pluses and minuses were taken into consideration. So this is an additional steel angle support, so that way the curtain wall had full bearing as opposed to only partial bearing at the concrete foundation wall. And the final ATP is ATP 78. This is for $3,955. As some of you know from some of the coordination with the school on colors and gym lines and that sort of thing, there were some additional lines compared to base scope for the gymnasium. So base scope drawings had the main court painted out. The school wanted both the cross courts also painted out. So some additional painting costs for that scope. So that totaled up to $3,955 for the paint and the labor. All right, I'll pause there for those 4. Are there any questions? Happy to answer. Nope. You want to do the motions for these, Graham, and then we'll go on to the next section?
Perfect.
Would you like me to read them?
That would be great, Sharon.
No problem. I'd like to make a motion to approve ATP 67 for the change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $4,708 for additional fire alarm monitoring for the brake tank and backflow enclosure per RFI 175.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Woody. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Like to make a motion to approve ATP 73 for a change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $4,621 for electrical AV and data infrastructure per bulletin 21.
Do we have a second?
I'll
All in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Like to make a motion to approve ATP 74 for the change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $3,551 for additional angle supports at curtain wall 6 per RFI 263.
Thank you. What, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve ATP 78 for change to Gilbane's existing construction contract in the amount of $3,955 for additional painted lines at the gym per coordination with the school per bulletin 34.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we're all set. So moving on to Adam, if you could
Okay, so now on to FF&E and IT. Start with the bid packages. Well, let me start off at a high level first. So this is the same chart as we showed last time, but been updated based on the approval we had at our last meeting and then this evening. So we have in these three categories, the furniture bids that came in, which were favorable. AVIT equipment state contracts, those are trending a bit higher as we're clarifying some of the scope and some of the additional components that are needed. But this evening we have 71,000 on the docket. And then the AVIT bids, which came in favorably, which you'll see in a moment here, by about 80 grand. So just again, kind of forecast as we're going through. We're doing even, I think this is a little better than we were at last meeting. Trending in very close to the estimate that we had prior to some of the bids in that, and again, well below the increased budget that we had carried to anticipate some of the inflation and escalation. I'm really trying to move through these purchase orders. I've had a number of vendors asking me, "Hey, when can I potentially get a PO on this?" Just because they're trying to release before some of the unknown market conditions or tariffs or whatnot hit. So it's good that we're keeping moving through these and getting these items reviewed. Any questions on this before I get into the bid results for the furniture AVIT?
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, I mean, thankfully we got most of the superstructure of the building built and all of the structural steel and all that. With the new tariffs that were announced on steel and aluminum, is that going to adversely impact the project and the pricing? Is that anticipated, or has this stuff been like contracted at a certain price already and it gets delivered at that price?
I'll speak to it, and then if Nick or Rob want to jump in, they certainly can. The main building has been contracted for, and that was something that was discussed when we were going through initial contract negotiations. Was do we or don't we build in a potential escalating function for the unknowns of market forces and tariffs, what have you. That we did not build in that escalating function. So anyone that's contracted, either Gilbane from the town or Gilbane's contracts with the individual subcontractors, I'm not sure what their verbiage is, but in general, anything that's already been contracted for should be contracted. Now, if there was a COVID situation where all of a sudden, when some of the projects hit and all of a sudden you couldn't get a generator, for example, nobody could, then you could get into situations of force majeure and what have you. But at this point, particularly because we're nearing the end of completion and items have been procured and whatnot, I don't particularly foresee that as being a substantive risk for this project based on where we're at, especially. Anything that's not contracted yet, or anything that it would be a change order, would be a different story. So if all of a sudden we were going to add on, I don't know, a bunch of steel ladders on the outside of the building for some reason, then that's a new component and steel pricing would certainly affect it. But I'll pause there. I don't know if Nick or Rob want to add on.
Yeah, I agree with what Adam said. I don't recall. I know we did not have an escalation clause in our contract with the town. I don't recall if we did or did not have one for tariffs, newly enacted tariffs and taxes, but I believe we didn't. even if we did, I think to Adam's point, the timing of this project, the fact that we've only got a couple of months left, it would be a hard sell for a subcontractor to say, well, I've had the last 10 months to buy my aluminum or steel widgets, and I didn't, and now I decided to, and here's a 25% bill for the increase. We would look at that and say, no, you should have bought it before now. You wanted to roll the dice to see if the price went down. Well, the price didn't. That's on you. But the bigger concern would be availability. And I know Rob and his team track on a weekly basis where materials and equipment are in terms of the fabrication and delivery process. I feel pretty good that even if this was enacted tomorrow, and I don't speak for Rob, but I feel pretty good that it wouldn't impact us very much at all, if at all.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on this summary? Nope. Okay. So this is, and everything you're seeing here is in the committee packet, as well as the individual of the lowest apparent bidders bids are in there as well. The bid packages, remember going back to when we first started, there were some items that went to bid, some items that went to state contract, and then a few direct purchase items. This represents the spectrum of the items going out to bid for our furniture, AV, and IT, and it was split into 3 packages just based on the type of work. So we'll zoom in a bit here. We had the remaining furniture items. That was at about $25,000 value that we were thinking going in. Promethean boards, which was 100 and something thousand that was expected, and then network switches for the IT closets. Similarly, again, just over $100,000 expected. After going through, looking at the bid packages, getting any necessary clarifications, the apparent low bidders would be WB Mason for furniture at their bid was at $15,055. You'll note that the motion is slightly less than that. As we were clarifying the scope, there was a bit of a double up, and some of the baby changing tables that were in the bid package scope are already part of Gilbane's contract. So that was removed. So when you see the motion not match that 15,000, that's why. And I've already confirmed with the vendor that that's acceptable. And I reviewed the rest of the bids to make sure that didn't change who the low bidder was. So anyway, I digress. W. Mason was the low for that package. CDW was the low for the Promethean boards. And then the network switches, the low bidder was Omnidata. So again, I'll pause there. Any questions on the bid packages?
Well, WB Mason made a bid that was lower. Were they not qualified, or was there some other reason that we didn't consider them?
I'm sorry. Good question. So it's in the notes here for the public record, but they submitted on not a Promethean board. It was a different product.
Oh.
And we had gone through, vetted with IT and the school about the teaching pedagogy. They go through Promethean boards. We got approval from the state to sole source Promethean boards, and substitutions were not accepted. So for that reason, this was not determined to be a responsive bid. Similarly, if you notice here on network switches, Hertz Furniture Systems, which I believe is largely a furniture firm, they submitted on the furniture package, but I think they had submitted also some numbers that were a bit of outliers for the Promethean boards, and then also for the network switches. So yes, so WB Mason's bid for Promethean boards because of the product, and Hertz for the overall understanding and completing the scope were thrown out.
Got it. I think someone throwing a dartboard would probably come up with better results than Hertz Furniture.
Well, I won't speculate as to why they put their bid in that way, but. All right. Other questions there? I will put the motions up, and for these furniture items, these are everything you're voting on tonight for FF&E AVIT is on the docket for Board of Selectmen at their tomorrow meeting, same as we did for the last meeting. You can just go on these three for right now, and then we'll get to the other two in a moment.
Do we have a volunteer?
I'll keep reading.
Thank you, Chair.
Motion to award Phase 3 bid package 1 for furniture items to WB Mason in the amount of $13,495 per their bid opened January 31st, 2025. The amount reflects the removal of the BAC2 scope, which is already contemplated in the construction GMP contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to award Phase 3 bid package 2A for Promethean interactive display boards to CDW government with the amount of $142,945 per their bid opened on January 31st, 2025.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to award Phase 3 bid package 2B for network switches to Omni Data in the amount of $165,814.04 per their bid opened January 31st, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the remaining two items. These were not bid packages. These were state contract pricing items. So we have this quote from Connecticut Communications under state contract 18 PSX 0097. This is for the phone systems. It's been coordinated with Art Sickle and IT about quantity model as part of the overarching town homogenization of their phone systems. So that's this quote. And then the other quote is from Presidio, again under state contract, but a different one, 18 PSX 0210. This is for some of the additional components to go into the main network closet. So we got the switches under bid. This is for 800 something patch cables and a UPS and some of the other bits and pieces that are above my pay grade in terms of what they are, but Art Sickle's team needs them for the closets. So that total came out to $17,578.80. There will be a couple more for the AV for the closets, but we're still working through some of the pricing and confirming scope for those, so that'll be at a later meeting. All right, any questions on those? And I'll put those two motions back up on the screen.
Now make a motion to approve quote from Connecticut Communications in the amount of $53,485.27 for phone system equipment per Connecticut State Contract 18PSX0097.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Grim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve quote 2003. I shouldn't say it that way. Sorry. Let me read that differently. Motion to approve quote 2003-72501-7023-02 from Presidio Network Solutions Group in the amount of $17,578.80 for networking equipment per Connecticut State Contract 18PSX0210.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sharon, for future quotes, I'll ask them to give a truncated quote number. So you're just not
That's
reading
all
numbers over. All right, so now we're on to the additional items, the last three. So this is for WB Meyer. So the town has a program-wide moving plan in place between Jeffrey to Brown, Ryerson to Brown, some of it's going to Neck River, etc. So this quote is something that Ben Whitaker with the town received for all of that work. Tonight, the vote is for the Neck River portion, which is a small portion because most of the items that are coming are new and there's not a lot of moves. So this value came from Ben to be attributed to the project. It's well within the project's allocated anticipated funds for this. So that's where this motion is coming from. The second of three items in this additional items section is for northeast scoreboards. If you recall, at the time that we had our GMP amendment with Gilbane for the full construction cost, there was a potential alternate for adding scoreboards to the project, but that was not accepted at that time with the notion that wanted to confer with, I think he was new at the time, athletic director about makes and models and what might shake out of that effort. So I've coordinated with the athletic director. This is a quote from the vendor they've been using for the make and model that they're trying to standardize across the district. And it's, I think, I don't have it in front of me, but I think the alternate from Gilbane's from this low subcontractor was something like 20 grand or 25 grand or something like that. So we're underneath that for the scoreboards that the schools have been using at the other schools in the district. So that's for 12,746 for that. And then the final item is just a carryover for our last meeting from Clifton Larson Allen LLP for the accounting assistance for the inflation reduction tax credit. So I've copied that in there, copied the motion in just because it was tabled at last meeting. Questions, comments about those three items?
The scoreboard is material only.
It's for material and to actually, they would mount it. So Gilbane, the electrical subcontractor under Gilbane owns bringing power to the box in the wall. So this contractor would furnish and mount the box. It's mostly remote. So there's a small bit of, connecting the plug, but it's mostly just installing it on the wall in the CMU.
Got it.
Graham, is there any clarification or any feeling on the IRA right now where we are?
There's still a lot of uncertainty, as you know. I'm sure. I know the town is still pursuing the first one. I think they were submitted or close to submitting the for the town hall project.
We got our registration number. That's about it.
So have you had any chance to talk to CLA or at all or anybody about what they're handicapping the?
No, we were actually just really excited to get the registration number. So it's in the queue, but we haven't got any release or anything.
I mean, I guess we can approve this. We don't necessarily need to give a notice to proceed, right, Adam? I mean, we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's if that we want to do it that way and have the basically, ready to go. The town already has their vendor information, so we could go as far as working with the town to develop the PO and either just not issue it yet, or like you said, not issue a notice to proceed, or we can gear it any number of ways. Just let me know what your thoughts are.
I guess it can't hurt to have it queued up so we don't have to wait. Not that we're meeting pretty regularly, so I guess I would recommend. Well, I open it for discussion, but I think we should just go ahead and approve it. We're talking about potentially $3 million. So
If we moved forward, Graham, with it, what would be the downside is 40,000, but
yeah, no, exactly. I
but
mean,
getting in the queue earlier might be a good idea. So
yeah, I mean, what I've heard from other, if you have a executed agreement, you have a much better chance of not getting clawed back. But if you don't actually have an agreement, you're more at risk. Whether it might not hurt to get in line first, or So I would say I would recommend approving that, and well, maybe I'll meet CLA and ask that for
gambling 40,000 to get 3 million is probably a pretty good thought.
I like the odds, unless you're betting on the Kansas City Chiefs last night. You're not going to get better odds than.
Yeah, I mean, I just to retroactively take something away, that'll end up in court if nothing else. My feeling would be to move forward with this. I'd hate to lose it because they ran out of money, which was always a question.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would support voting for it, and then we'd have a meeting with CLA and verify it unless they tell us absolute they don't think it's worth it, which I doubt. I
Well,
guess
vote. Can I just ask, kind of a point of clarification? If you vote to approve it, that doesn't necessarily mean you spend it unless they actually do the report, right?
exactly. Yeah, we still this is the first step of 2 or 3 steps. So yeah, I would recommend approving it so we have the ability to cut them a PO, and then we'll see where it goes, and we'll get some feedback from them. But it's it's worth.
Peter, were you heavily involved in the town campus one in terms of the, my gathering from the initial meetings with CLA was that there was, you kind of, they do a lot of data gathering and sort of behind the scenes type information to study your system, ask questions about costs, do a bunch of math, and then the submissions at the end, in terms of, what their effort would be. So it's not just like 40 grand right at the end. It's a bit of an expenditure. So in terms of just if we're talking about risk, it would be, I would imagine there'd be some amount of expenditure up front, not all of it, but there'd be some upfront that would need to go out the door to get them to get moving on some of this analysis.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah. I must say though, what they do is they assure that the paperwork is all in proper order. It is certainly a worthwhile expenditure. I'm with Graham. I think this is something that they should approve, and then you've got it in the queue so you can jump on it quickly. This would be something that we would not want to try to fly alone on. And it's again, there's no guarantees. There's never any guarantees on any grants. But this is really taking a spotlight now. So they were I can tell you this, the team is very helpful. They're very thorough. And there's an awful lot that has to be filled out. There's an awful lot that's got to be recorded on these things, and they're very good at handling what they do.
I mean, just the percentage of American steel, and I mean, it's just there's so much to it.
By the
Okay.
way, I just got a notification that the president did sign executive orders to tariff steel and aluminum.
Luckily, we're where we are. Thank God we moved forward
Yeah.
as quickly as we did last
Yeah,
year and a half.
the steel casings on the geo wells have been in for a long time.
Got it. Okay, Adam, let's pull it up and let's get some motions going.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the portion of the quote 58082 dated 12/19/2024 from WB Meyer per state contract 14PSX0161 in the amount of $13,303 for moving services between existing schools and the new Neck River Elementary.
Have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Motion to approve a portion of the quote number 542 dated January 10th, 2025 from Northeast Scoreboards in the amount of $12,746 for new scoreboards in the gymnasium.
Have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Motion to approve the elementary school portion of the proposal dated 10/28/2024 from Clifton Larson Allen LLP for the total amount of $40,000 for Inflation Reduction Act tax credit services related to the geothermal system. The work is to be performed under Connecticut Department of Administrative Services contract number 23PSX0146.
Have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
And just to confirm, Graham, I think my understanding at the end of the discussion was that, they should proceed with pursuing the documents basically how they would normally do, not withholding a notice to proceed. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I'll talk to Peggy. We'll maybe have a meeting with CLA, but let's get the
Okay.
procurement
Very
going.
good.
Got it. Moving on, anything else, Adam?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Item number 6, public comment. Raquel, do we have any public with hands raised?
No, we have Katie Stein from Board of Finance.
I assume if she's not raised, she's doesn't have anything to say. Moving on to number 7, remarks. Any other remarks? Anything? Motion closing minutes. Moving. Anyone would like to make a motion to
Graham?
adjourn? Yep.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Just a reminder, we do have a meeting again next week. This was a special meeting, and the meeting is Tuesday because of the shift for the holiday. So just putting that out there. I'll be assembling the packet for later this week, but want to get on people's radar.
You think you'll have the playground by then or not?
That's the hope.
Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll do
Jared,
that.
a second? What do you,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Sorry,
Good
we
luck.
ran a little long, Bob. Sorry. 15 minutes you're not getting back. I